Hello everyone, and welcome to another edition of Connecting with Kim. We're so glad you joined us today here on Tampa Bay Arts and Education Network. And you can find the audio of my show on Sun Radio 96.3 FM in Sun City Center or on your favorite streaming platform. And before we begin, I always love to give a shout out to my sponsor, the Spring of Tampa Bay, who provides my on-air wardrobe, my jewelry, etc. from the store, the Spring Boutique at the corner of Swann and Henderson here in Tampa. All net proceeds from the store go to support their mission of providing sanctuary and services since 1977 to survivors of domestic violence. So if you haven't been there, go there. They have great stuff. So I'm so excited today for our show. We have a first-timer in the chair from a really interesting organization that I am just as keen to learn about as I know you will be. So let me introduce my guest today, and my guest is Angie Kagey, who is the Executive Director of Impact Program, Inc. Welcome to Connecting with Kim.
Thank you so much, Kim, for having me. I'm really excited to be here and to tell you more about what we do.
Oh, we're so excited. We're so excited too, because everyone was asking me in the studio before we started, what is Impact? And so I was, trying to explain to them, but you're going to do a much better job than I'm ever going to do. So as everyone who watches Connecting with Kim knows, I always like to start the top of the show with allowing my guests to share a little bit about their life journey thus far. And usually that sharing brings us to the reason why we're here today having this conversation. So take it away.
Okay, sure. Well, I'm not a native of the Florida or the Tampa Bay area. I'm actually originally from Indianapolis, Indiana, and I've been married for 31 years. We just celebrated a 31-year anniversary. And
Congratulations.
Thank you very much. And we do have two kids. I have a daughter, Allie, and she is 25 years old and lives in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And then my son, Will, he is he's 21 years old, and he's in Wake Forest, North Carolina, going to school.
Oh, cool.
And so what brought us here to the Tampa Bay area was actually my husband's job. He's been a pastor in ministry for many years, working with students directly, and was brought in by, which is now the Crossing, but it was called Crosstown Church, and he became the director of student ministries there for 5 years. So that's actually what brought us to the Tampa Bay area. And that's when I was introduced to an organization called Life Care Network, which is now called Choices, and it was the local pregnancy center located in Brandon. And I had learned about a prevention program that they were wanting to start, where they sent speakers into the schools to talk about healthy relationships and healthy choices to teens 9th through 12th grade. And it really intrigued me. I was very interested in that. And the director prior to me, the prevention services director, had actually went to Crosstown to meet with my husband to see about bringing the program to the students there. And he said, I really think you need to talk to my wife. And a lot of that had to do with my own past choices as a teenager. I had had a pregnancy scare when I was a junior in high school, and found out that I wasn't pregnant, but I went through all of those negative emotions of being worried, anxious, and afraid. And it wasn't until I heard a speaker in college that was talking about the importance of avoiding high-risk behaviors and waiting until your marriage relationship so that you could start off on a really good foundation. And I was kind of like, well, what good does this do me? I've already made those choices. And it was almost as if somebody read my mind, because the very next thing was, maybe you're sitting there and you're wondering, what good does this information do you, because you'd already made those choices. And he goes, I want you to know that, you can have a fresh start. And I did from that moment forward. And so I deal with a lot of teenagers that are in those circumstances, or maybe they've already made healthy choices, but they need that encouragement that that's okay, and that not everybody is engaging in a relationship with the opposite sex or with their partner, engaging in sexual relationship. It's not necessary. So with me, it really came down to, I really wanted to encourage teens to maybe not make some of the same choices that I made, so that they can focus on their goals and their dreams. So.
Well, it really is true that every day is a new beginning.
Yes.
And you can you start from where you are,
right,
and it doesn't really matter, because you can't do anything about what's happened in
the
past
no.
anyway. So you really make a fresh start every day. So, well, this is so exciting, folks, because we just found out while we were sitting here that we were both from the Midwest, from Indianapolis, Indiana. So how, serendipitous is that? And so I'd like to back up just a little bit from the information you shared about your life journey, and I appreciate you being so candid and open. Some people, wouldn't be able to do that.
Sure.
And I'm sure that the people you work with really appreciate that also. So let's back up and talk about what is impact. Tell me and the listening and watching audience, like, how did it start?
Sure.
What do you do? We need to go through the basics, because we build from there, and then we get into the programs and who you work with and so on and so forth.
I'd be happy to do that, yes. Well, because I was working for a crisis pregnancy center, one of the things that we felt was really important is to be on the front lines of the public, private, and charter schools here in the county, and have the opportunity to really educate and equip teens to make healthy choices by avoiding high-risk behavior. And so with that, the program did start with volunteer speakers being trained to go into the classroom. And some of the topics that we cover are like refusal skills and setting boundaries in relationships, but also how do you establish a healthy relationship, and what does that look like? What type of red flags are in a relationship? Maybe be something that you shouldn't pursue.
I think that's even, to me, that is really key.
Yes.
Because there is, the pressure on kids today, and I wouldn't go back to being in high school for all the money in the world. But, well, maybe for all the money in the world, given how bad we are. But, they have so much pressure from the outside world, from their peer group, from movies and television and music. They have so many pressures and so many what I consider to be questionable messages being sent to them about. So those red flags to me are like,
yes,
number one.
Yes, and I will tell you too that when we have a three-prong approach, and one of them is the classroom education piece that I just explained. And we were fortunate enough back in 2005 to receive some federal funding, which allowed us to really expand our presence in the public, private, and charter schools here in the county. So under that grant funding, we were able to speak to over 10,000 students here in the Hillsborough County area each year.
Wow.
So we have a wonderful partnership with the school district. That's been over 20 years, and we are invited to go into HOPE classes and family and consumer science classes because we fit really well with that curriculum.
Yeah.
But we are really educating more on how to establish those healthy relationships. What are some of the risks, but what are some of the freedoms you get to experience by holding off on those types of relationships until later on in life? So that is just the classroom piece. But then we also have established a program where it's called Teen Impact. We noticed that a lot of the students might hear our presentation, but they needed additional support. Like Kim, you just mentioned that, this is really kind of countering the culture that they live in. The media tells them to do some certain things. Their peers might tell them to do certain things. But we find out that they really need positive peer support. So we've established clubs in some of our local schools that meet on school campus once a month that allows them to be a part of that so that they can gain additional support that they need. So it's kind of providing positive peer pressure rather than negative peer pressure.
So let me understand something. So is the message overall when you go into the schools to these different programs is to, number one, abstain from sexual relations until you're in a committed or loving relationship.
Monogamous relationship, yes.
And what are the red flags that someone is trying to get you to engage in behavior that is not in your best interest, and or maybe not in your best interest? I mean, have I got that right? That's what you're, so the message that you're trying to deliver is there's nothing wrong with abstaining. There's nothing wrong with being in a healthy monogamous, say that 3 times fast, relationship, and now you're going to give them coping tools or positive reinforcement to keep living that every day.
Right. Well, one of the things we do talk about that is if a person continues to keep putting pressure on you to do something that you're not ready or that you don't want to do, and we're talking about all high-risk behavior, not just sexual activity, that they have the skills in order to be able to do that. So this is not a just say no program. This is a program that's giving them those tools to be able to follow through and have the assertiveness that they need in order to have those mature conversations with the people that they're in a relationship with. And then if that person respects you, then they will respect your decisions and they wouldn't continue to pursue you to do, or not pursue you, but pressure you to do something that you're not ready to do. So we give them the actual verbiage that they need in order to have that conversation.
Well, I'm gonna bring up something. It's probably going to be slightly controversial or maybe touchy for some people, so I'm going to give you fair warning. But it is in this whole area. I have been surprised in the last couple of years, in particular, that of the emphasis on oral sex between teenagers, and that somehow that is not considered sex. And I'm like, yeah, I categorize that as sex.
Yes, yes. When we do talk about sex, we're talking about all forms of sexual activity.
All forms of sex, right? And that's
yes,
one of them.
because the physical consequences can be in all forms of sexual activity. HPV being one of them. They're the ones that are spread through direct skin-to-skin contact. Now, I'm not talking about elbows to elbows, but intimate contact, that can be spread. So, yeah, any of the diseases that we talk about, a person is exposed to when they're engaged in any of the 4 forms of sexual activity. So,
okay.
yes.
So we've got the school program.
Sure.
Now we've got the teen support programs to help you with the verbiage, with the language, with the signals, and so let's talk about what else we do.
Yeah.
Because I know you don't just focus on students.
Yeah, well, yes. Well, can I back up just a little
you
bit?
You can do whatever you want. This is your interview.
Well, with Teen Impact, too, one of the things that we do have the privilege to do, and it's probably one of the most exciting programs that we offer, is our summer staff program. So we recruit students out of those clubs to apply and interview and audition for our summer staff team. And if they are selected, and this is for 9th through 12th grade, if they're selected, they become one of 30 to 35 students, and they are trained on a skit-based presentation. And they go around to area boys and girls clubs, YMCAs, rec centers, and church organizations, community organizations. And they present the message, but it's peer-to-peer.
Wonderful.
And I absolutely love that program because they become role models throughout the community, but they also make a commitment to be drug-free, alcohol-free, tobacco-free, and remain abstinent. So they are on a contract basis, and they share the message, but they gain their over 100 community service hours they need for bright futures.
Oh,
so this is a
that's
great way
yeah.
for them to earn their hours that they need. It looks great on a college resume. But I will tell you what a student looks like at the beginning of the summer and what they look like at the end of the summer is truly a transformation.
In what way?
Well,
describe it to me.
I would totally. Their public speaking skills totally increase. Their own commitments in their own lives become much stronger. They develop social skills because they're working with a team dynamic for the entire summer. So it's an 8-week program. So Monday through Thursday, they are doing 2 presentations a day. Fridays are, every other Friday, we do like an optional fun activity, like go to Busch Gardens or do something fun with them so that their whole summer is not just presentations. But it's the environment in which they become best friends with the students that they're working with. So they feel very empowered, and they really do make a positive impact on the community in which they're presenting in. So the public speaking skills, just the solidification of their own commitments and desires that they have. And it really does look good on their college resume because they're already experiencing what it's like to almost have like a job or responsibility, because we treat it just like a job.
I love the synergy of that.
We love
You know,
it.
and all of the skill gains
Yes.
that you get in that situation that you can use for a lifetime.
Yes.
I mean, I always say that, used to work for IBM.
Yes.
And I always say that IBM gave me more, even though I was successful there, I always feel they gave me more than I gave them in the sense that all the skills they taught me have lasted me I've used my entire life.
Right. Well, Kim, what's so exciting about that, too, is I have students that have already gained their over 100 service hours that they need, but they keep coming back.
Wonderful.
So I've had students that have been in it for 5 years. They started out right before they went into 9th grade, then they finished all the way through senior, and then come back even as interns.
And what a testament that is.
Right. They genuinely, absolutely love the program. So that probably is one of the most profitable things that we do, and I don't mean financially. I mean
overall for society at large, right?
Yes.
So if you're just joining me on Connecting with Kim, my guest in the chair today is Angie Kagey, who is the executive director of Impact Program Inc., and we are discussing what Impact does, what their programs are, the audience that they work with, and we have been talking about so far their work with students in the school system, and that includes all the different kind of schools, private schools, charter schools, public schools, and then some summer internships that she was just describing that are helping, and so we'll go from there.
Well, you mentioned our student component, which is really important. That's what our main objective is to reach students, but we also desire to reach parents. So we have developed a parent program with the help of my husband, who is our development director, but he also just recently finished his doctorate. And with that, he has spent time revamping our parent program. And our parent program is so important because I don't think a lot of parents realize that they are the most influential in their teens' lives. A lot of times you might think it's the students' peers, but it's actually their parents. And so parents need this information. They need to be current and up to date, but then also they need to feel equipped to be able to have those conversations with their students. We can do what we do on the public school campus or private charter school campus, but it's really the parents who are the ones that are the most influential. So if we can give them the information that we know, help empower them to have those conversations, we certainly want to do that. So we do offer that program throughout the county. It's like a seminar. We've done weekend retreats with certain community organizations to help give the parents the tools that they need to have those conversations.
And how does that work out? I mean, what's the feedback you get from the parents? I mean, are they, is this, because, you're right. I mean, parents set the example. Children are like little sponges.
Yes.
They observe and they absorb. That's what they do, right? And then what they do after they observe and absorb is they parrot back whatever they've seen, right?
Right.
So how does that go with the parents? I mean,
well, first I will tell you, a lot of them are shocked because what they were dealing with when they were teenagers is so much different than the culture that our teens are living in now.
Oh gosh.
And so honestly, they are pretty uneasy with finding out all the things that the students are dealing with from the media. Of course, technology is so much different now than what we were when we were growing up. So that also is a battle. So learning for the parents to find out, how do I even navigate these conversations? But one of the things that I do get from parents, a lot of times they don't feel qualified to talk to their teens about it. And some of it might be because some of their own decisions and choices that they made when they were in their teenage years. And one thing that I really try to encourage the parents is that if you are still living and making difficult decisions, yeah, it might be hard to educate your student on these particular topics. But if you've learned from some past choices and decisions that you've made, now you become a teacher.
And I think that if you are able to share with your child or your children some of these decisions that you made that really, maybe weren't the best,
right?
And maybe some of them had long-lasting consequences. What better way to say, don't do as I've done,
Yes.
do as I'm trying to help you avoid these pitfalls.
Right, yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I can't make different decisions in my past. I wish I could.
You can't do anything about what already happened.
But I can help my kids and the next generation to make their decisions based on some learning experiences that I've had. And again, it's still up to the students. We empower them and respect them that when they're given the right information, they can make a good educated decision for themselves. It's giving them the right information that is so important, that this is possible to avoid it. And if you've already engaged in behavior, like we can't do anything about the decisions they made before they came into class or into club, but they do have the power of the decisions that they make when they leave. See, when we know better, we can do better.
Well, and I think that this whole connection between having the knowledge, being empowered, making a choice, but then understanding that every choice you make in your life has consequences.
Yes.
Every choice I make every day, every choice you make every day
Right.
has a consequence attached to it. And you have to be willing to accept the responsibility for the choice.
Yes. And then we also have resources that we can refer them to. If they're in a situation where they've made some choices, we can definitely lead them in the right direction where they can give good information. So again, that they can receive that support they need. So, we also know that we're talking to a vast, first of all, we're the 7th largest school district in the nation.
Yeah.
So with that, we have a diverse audience, and we totally understand that. But we also we know that not all students are going to receive the message. We know some students are undecided, and then we also know that some students have made that decision to hold off on high-risk behavior, and we want to encourage them in that. And hopefully those that are undecided, once they're given the information, they can make they can make a conscious decision to wait. And then those students that have already made those decisions, maybe they have a new idea of what they want to do differently. So I love that we get a chance to talk to all audiences, and we are not naive to know that.
Right.
And again, based on my own past, that's why I am so empowered to continue with this message, is because I can relate. I know what it's like, and some of the consequences I've experienced, I want to be able to help them to avoid those if at all possible, or to avoid any new consequences from occurring.
Well, I'm one of those people, when I look back on my life, I say to myself, oh God, there's so many times I should have been dead. You know, some of the behavior some of the behavior. And I know you're listening, Mom. My mom's with me today, so she's in the studio. I always say that by the grace of God, by the grace of God alone,
I agree.
I did not, I did not have something that just, totally wrecked my life, and I had to live with the consequences of that choice. But there are many times when I think, oh gosh,
oh yes,
I really should have been.
And then there's times I've reaped those consequences.
Oh yeah,
for sure.
oh yeah.
Yes.
There's time we've all done that,
yes.
right? But you're so right. I look at the teens today versus when I was in high school, and even now middle school, and I never had to deal with those kind of issues.
Right, yes.
I never even thought about them.
Right.
I mean, I just never had to. Sometimes I look back and I think, did I live in some kind of bubble?
Yes.
Because I just didn't have to worry about some of those things.
Right.
And so now we've got students, we've got adults, and is there any other, and teachers too, you focus on, don't you have some programs for teachers too?
Well, when they bring us in that partnership, it's that teacher that's bringing us, and we're invited by the school district, but we are also invited by the individual teachers. And they are required to teach this particular curriculum, but what was very helpful with our partnership with the teachers is that maybe where they don't feel as qualified, bringing us in as guest speakers really helps them to be able to cover the material, but do it with an outside source. They can say so much to the students, but they love that it's being reinforced by an outside organization. So it really does provide those teachers with just the information and the support that they need in order to continue with that part of the curriculum.
So now you mentioned this earlier, because we're getting down to about the last 5 minutes of our show, so I want to make sure we don't miss anything. So you talked about before your funding. So I know you're an NPO, a 501c3.
Right.
So tell me how your funding works.
Yeah. Well, like I said, we had the privilege to be federally funded back from 2005 then to 2008. That was a 3-year grant. Then we had some funding after that. That was another grant that we received. But back in 2010, that grant funding went away. And at the time, a lot of organizations like ours were actually jeopardized because that funding from the government stopped. And so with that, we had other pregnancy centers here in the Tampa Bay area that decided to launch Impact as its own program and become its own 501c3 so that we could go after funding for just this program.
Okay.
So it's no longer under the pregnancy center, umbrella. It is its own entity. And we had expanded so much in the schools that we wanted to keep that presence there as well. So funding for that program was so important. So what we really strive to do is create community awareness about impact on what we do. See, the teachers would miss us and the students would miss us. But the community didn't know what we were doing in the schools. So we really took a very, intentional approach to create community awareness for what we did. So we are funded by fundraisers and individuals in the community, business partners. We've received some community grants, one from the Community Foundation. So that allows us to receive that funding. Now I'm happy to say that we are in a much better substantial foundation that we had coming off of that grant because the community is supporting what we do financially and they allow us to have the resources. So we do like 4 or 5 main fundraisers throughout the year. We do an Impact's Got Talent where students actually put their talents to work and they're given a grand prize winner, and that's usually in the spring. We do a spring tea as well. We do an Impact Celebration, which was just last week. That's where we gain a lot of our monthly support, which is so critical for what we do, is that monthly support, and because that creates a sustainability. And then we have another fundraiser coming up that is very popular in the community, and it's our Impacts Designer Purse Bingo, and that's December the 1st.
Oh, I know, I saw it on Facebook. Yeah.
Michael Kors Purses, George Shea is a realtor in the Brandon community, and he sponsors it each year, and it's just an awesome opportunity for the community to come together and just enjoy an evening of fun out, but it does really help us to provide the funds that we need for Impact. So.
Well, we only have a couple minutes left, so I want to give you an opportunity. I always do this with all my NPOs when they're on, is to look in that camera, which is your camera, and you make any appeal to that listening and watching audience that you want to.
Thank you so much, Kim. Really, our basic needs that we have right now currently is we are really in need of a van. Our summer staff program, we've been fortunate enough to have community partners that have provided us with transportation, but this was a real challenge this past summer. So we are looking for some community partners that would help us to purchase a van, and we already have some seed money that we would like to get added to that, so that the students are able to ride in a van that has air conditioning. It's really challenging to go to all the different spots and not have that. And then secondly, we really need monthly partnerships. We need people who will come alongside of us and help us on a monthly basis. And so if there is someone who's interested in doing that, they can find us at whatisimpact.com.
No, you say that a little bit slower and say it again.
I'm so sorry. Whatisimpact.com. And through that, they can donate through the donate button and help us to meet those two needs that we have.
Okay, so I want to tell you folks, you know, I never have anybody on the show, especially if I'm not familiar with them, intimately familiar with them. I always go to their website and crawl all over it, do every drop-down menu they offer. I mean, I look at the pictures, I look at the board of directors, I look at who the leadership is. I really crawl all over. And in fact, I got back to, gave Angie some feedback about their website. But they have a great website, whatisimpact.com. I encourage you to go there and look for opportunities to support this wonderful organization. So I want to thank my guest today on Connecting with Kim, Angie Kagey from Impact Program, Inc., for being my guest on Connecting with Kim.
Oh, thank you so much, Kim. It's been truly an honor and a pleasure to be here with you today. Thank you for your grace and just the conversation. I really appreciate it.
Oh, we're just thrilled to have you. And that is the whole idea behind Connecting with Kim, is making our little corner of paradise a better place.
Awesome.
So that's all we have time for today on Connecting with Kim. Again, I want to thank you for joining us. You can catch our audio on Sun Radio 96.3 FM at Sun City Center and on your favorite streaming platform. I want to give a shout out to the Spring of Tampa Bay for providing my wardrobe from the Spring Boutique at Swann and Henderson. Go visit them. They do great work. And we'll be back next time and next week with another great edition of Connecting with Kim. Thank you so much.